Emperor Prylar cut down the Trixian leader, his screams still echoing as the Voxari flagship glided over the burning cities below. 1 billion Trixians were already dead. The rest would be enslaved. The conquest was easy, like all the others. Too easy, Prylar thought. When would a worthy challenger arise to fight the Voxari Empire's galactic reign of terror? Unbeknownst to Prylar, the humans were coming. Humanity had colonized 100 worlds in an unexplored sector of the Milky Way, their fiercely independent nature forging them into a formidable civilization. When Carl Reed, an intrepid human explorer, discovered a secret Voxari slave camp, he knew he had to act. Sickened by the atrocities he witnessed, Carl gathered vital evidence of Voxari brutality to show the human leadership. The proof was damning. Torture, executions, enslavement of countless sapient species. This tyranny could not stand. Though the human worlds had avoided major wars thus far, honor now demanded action against a monstrous regime that spanned a third of the galaxy. But in his haste to expose the Voxari's evil deeds, Carl was spotted by a guard. Pursued and under fire, he barely escaped to hyperspace in his damaged vessel. His risky mission had been a success, but the repercussions were just beginning. A Voxari spy drone had recorded Carl's ship. When Emperor Prylar learned that a mere human had dared infiltrate his empire's space, his fury knew no bounds. This brazen act could not go unanswered. Prylar dispatched forces to intercept Carl and a fleet to the edges of human territory, determined to make a brutal example of any species that defied his rule. As the Voxari war machine mobilized, the fragile galactic peace hung by a thread. The mighty Emperor was poised to unleash Armageddon across the stars. Only the indomitable human spirit stood in his way. Carl's ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, the damaged engines whining in protest. The human frontier outpost loomed ahead, a beacon of hope amidst the vast emptiness of space. With his last ounce of strength, Carl guided the battered vessel into the docking bay, the landing struts screeching against the deck plates. Admiral Thorne, a hardened warrior with piercing gray eyes, rushed to meet Carl as he stumbled from the ship, clutching the data drive with trembling hands. "They're monsters, Admiral," Carl gasped, his voice raw with emotion. "The Voxari, the things they've done. We have to stop them." Thorne's teeth gritted as he took the drive, immediately grasping the gravity of the situation. "Get this to Earth now," he barked at a nearby officer. "The eunuch needs to see this." But as the officer hurried away, alarms blared throughout the outpost. Voxari ships had appeared on the scanners, their menacing forms casting shadows across the station. Leading them was Warlord Craxus, a beast of a Voxari known for his cruelty and ruthless efficiency. Thorne ordered the outpost to battle stations, but it was too late. Craxus and his death squad breached the airlock, their weapons spitting plasma as they cut down the human defenders. Carl, exhausted and unarmed, was seized by the hulking Voxari before he could reach the escape pods. Aboard Craxus's ship, Carl endured unimaginable agony as the warlord interrogated him, demanding to know what information he had transmitted. But despite the searing pain, Carl remained defiant, his loyalty to humanity unyielding. Craxus snarled in frustration, realizing he would break before he talked. Across the Voxari Empire, trillions of subjects were commanded to witness Carl's execution, a display of the Emperor's ruthless power. In the Grand Capital Square, Carl was dragged before Prylar himself, his battered body held up by Craxus's clawed grip. The Emperor's eyes glinted with malice as he savored the moment, his sword poised to end the human's life. Suddenly, the square erupted in chaos. Deafening explosions shook the ground as smoke grenades rained down, obscuring the scene. Through the haze, a human dropship appeared, its cloaking field shimmering as it disengaged. Captain Alexei Nikolov, the most elite soldier humanity had ever produced, leapt from the craft with his team, their pulse rifles already firing. The Voxari were caught off guard, their energy shields useless against the humans' advanced weaponry. Alexei fought his way to Carl, cutting down Voxari warriors with lethal precision. Craxus roared in rage, charging at the humans with his plasma blade, But Alexei was too quick. He scooped up Karl and leapt back to the dropship, leaving a trail of Voxari bodies in his wake. As the dropship lifted off, Kraxus gave chase in his personal fighter, his weapons locking onto the human craft. But Alexei had one last trick up his sleeve. With a grim smile, he launched a volley of EMP missiles, the blue-white energy burst frying the Voxari ship's systems. Kraxus howled in frustration as Alexei's team made the jump to hyperspace, Karl safely in their custody. On Earth, the rescued hero was met with a mixture of jubilation and unyielding commitment. The recordings had shocked humanity to its core, revealing the true face of the Voxari Empire. In the halls of the eunuch, heated debates raged as the galaxy stood on the precipice of total war. Some called for caution, for diplomacy, but Admiral Thorne's words echoed in the minds of all. The Voxari will not stop until humanity is ground to dust beneath their boots. We must strike first, and strike hard. For the sake of all sapient life, the Empire must fall. As the fleets gathered and soldiers sharpened their blades, the galaxy held its breath. The Voxari had finally met a foe that would not cower or submit. Humanity, united and unyielding, was coming for them, and the stars themselves would tremble. The eunuch chamber fell silent as Admiral Thorne's words hung in the air. Moments later, screens lit up with urgent alerts. Voxari ships had been detected approaching human space. "We're out of time," Thorne growled. "Captain Nikolov, assemble your strike teams. We hit them first." In the shadows of a Voxari shipyard, Alexei's team moved with predatory grace. Their adaptive camouflage rendered them nearly invisible as they slipped past patrols. Inside the facility, they planted charges on fuel lines and power conduits. A Voxari engineer turned a corner, coming face to face with Alexei. The alien's eyes widened in shock, mandibles clicking in alarm. Alexei's knife found its mark before the Voxari could cry out. As the team exfiltrated, the shipyard erupted in a series of thunderous explosions. Alexei watched from their cloaked shuttle as incomplete warships crumbled, flames consuming the docks. "One down," he muttered. 1,000 more to go." Across the frontier, human strike teams wreaked havoc on Voxari military targets. Supply depots went up in flames. Communication relays were sabotaged. Fuel refineries became infernos visible from orbit. On his flagship, Warlord Kraxus raged at the mounting reports of destruction. "How?" he snarled, crushing a datapad in his clawed grip. "How are they slipping past our defenses?" During a raid on a major Voxari command center, Alexei's team discovered a trove of strategic data. As they downloaded the files, alarms blared. "We've been made," his second-in-command reported. "Multiple hostiles inbound." Alexei's mind raced. "Initiate Cole Protocol. Wipe the local systems, then blow the charges. We're taking this intel home if it kills us." They fought their way out, Voxari troops falling before their advanced weaponry. As they reached the extraction point, Alexei looked back at the collapsing facility. "Mission accomplished," he said grimly. "Let's see what secrets we've uncovered." Back on Earth, Admiral Thorne's eyebrows furrowed as he reviewed the stolen Voxari plans. Schematics for massive invasion fleets. Charts marking human worlds for annihilation. The scope of the threat was beyond anything they'd imagined. He strode into the eunuch chambers, face set in stone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "I have incontrovertible proof that the Voxari intend to wipe humanity from the galaxy. We must mobilize everything we have. The fate of our species hangs in the balance." As the council deliberated, alarms blared across a dozen human colonies. Voxari death fleets dropped out of hyperspace, weapons already firing. Orbital defenses crumbled. Cities burned. Millions perished in the opening salvo of Prylar's war of extermination. Admiral Thorne watched grimly as reports flooded in. "So it begins," he murmured. He turned to his staff, steel in his eyes. "Launch the fleets. All of them. The Voxari wanted a war. We'll give them one they'll never forget." Across human space, shipyards roared to life. Sleek destroyers and massive dreadnoughts, gleaming with experimental energy, weapons and shields, poured from orbital docks. AI-guided fighters swarmed like angry hornets. As the human armada assembled, Even hardened veterans felt a thrill of awe at its sheer firepower. The first clash came in the Rigel system. Human and Voxari fleets collided in a maelstrom of weapons fire and explosions. Antimatter torpedoes punched through Voxari shields smoothly. Swarms of human drones overwhelmed point defenses, peppering capital ships with precise strikes. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Craxus watched in disbelief as a third of his fleet was reduced to debris in mere minutes. "Impossible," he hissed. "Fall back and regroup. We underestimated these vermin." As the Voxari retreated, cheers erupted across human comms. But Admiral Thorne remained grim. "A good start," he said, "but this war is not nearly finished. Push forward. We take the fight to their doorstep now." On 1,000 subjugated worlds, news of the Voxari defeat spread like wildfire. Enslaved races looked to the stars with newfound hope. In secret meetings and hidden bunkers, resistance leaders unfurled plans long dormant. Human weapons and training would give them the edge they needed. The galaxy trembled as the war expanded. Humanity had awoken a sleeping giant, and the Voxari Empire would soon learn the price of its tyranny. Admiral Thorne's hologram flickered as he addressed the assembled rebel leaders. "The time has come to strike at the heart of the Voxari Empire," he declared, his voice resonating through the secure bunker. "We will take Korlunks." General Vera, her crystalline skin shimmering under the harsh lights, leaned forward. "A bold move, Admiral. But how do you propose we breach their defenses?" Captain Alexei stepped into view, his scarred face set in steadfast perseverance. "Misdirection," he said, activating a tactical display. "We'll launch simultaneous attacks across multiple systems, keeping the Voxari off balance." The plan unfolded with cold precision. Human battle groups jumped into Voxari-held systems, unleashing furious barrages before vanishing again. Rebel cells ignited uprisings on a dozen worlds. The Empire's forces scrambled to respond, stretched thin across vast distances. Then, without warning, the combined human-rebel armada materialized in Korlunks' orbit. The Voxari home fleet reeled, caught flat-footed by the audacious assault. Admiral Thorne's voice crackled across the comms. "All ships, engage at will. Today we end this tyranny." Space erupted in apocalyptic fury. Human dreadnoughts traded titanic blows with Voxari capital ships, their hulls lit by the strobe-like flashes of energy weapons. Swarms of fighters and drones clashed in swirling dogfights. Antimatter warheads bloomed like artificial suns, vaporizing entire squadrons in instants. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Craxus bellowed orders as his fleet disintegrated around him. "Hold the line! We cannot lose Korlunks!" But even as he spoke, another Voxari cruiser vanished in a ball of plasma, overwhelmed by relentless human firepower. As the space battle raged, drop pods streaked through Korlunks' atmosphere. Captain Alexei's shock troopers hit the ground running, their powered armor shrugging off small arms fire. They carved paths of destruction through Voxari defensive positions, clearing landing zones for the main invasion force. Alexei sprinted down a rubble-strewn street, his energy rifle spitting death at any Voxari foolish enough to show themselves. "Push forward!" he roared over the team Freck. "We need to secure that spaceport!" The urban warfare was brutal and unforgiving. Human troops advanced block by block, their advanced weaponry proving devastatingly effective in close quarters. Voxari soldiers fought with fanatic commitment, but they were outmatched by the invaders' tactical edge and superior firepower. In low orbit, Admiral Thorne watched the battle unfold with icy calm. A junior officer approached, his face pale. "Sir, Warlord Craxus is attempting to break through our lines. He's leading a relief force personally." Thorne's eyes narrowed. "Not on my watch. All carrier groups form up on me. We're going Craxus hunting." The clash was titanic. Craxus hurled his fleet at the human blockade with reckless abandon. But Thorne was ready. His carriers launched wave after wave of drones, swarming the Voxari ships from every angle. Pinpoint strikes crippled engines and weapon systems. When the barrage lifted, Craxus's once mighty armada was little more than drifting wreckage. On the planet's surface, General Vira led her commando team through the maze-like corridors of the Imperial Palace. They moved with silent efficiency, neutralizing guards before they could raise the alarm. As they neared the throne room, Vira's comm crackled. "General, we've secured the shield generators. The palace defenses are down." Vira allowed herself a predatory smile. "Excellent. All units converge on my position. It's time to dethrone an emperor." The throne room doors exploded inward. Emperor Prylar, resplendent in his ornate battle armor, whirled to face the intruders. His eyes blazed with hate as he recognized Vira. "You dare!" he snarled, activating his energy blade. Vira raised her own weapon, her voice cold. "Your reign ends here, tyrant." The two leaders clashed in a blur of strikes and parries. Prylar was a skilled warrior, but Vira matched him. Blow for blow, as they fought, Allied forces poured into the chamber, overwhelming the last pockets of Imperial resistance. Sensing defeat, Prylar lashed out in desperation. His blade carved a vicious path across Vira's face, leaving a trail of seared flesh. She staggered back, momentarily blinded. Prylar lunged for the killing blow, only to be met by a burst of plasma fire that shredded his armor. Vira stood, her damaged face twisted in a grimace of pain and triumph. "For every world you enslaved," she growled. "For every life you destroyed." She raised her weapon. "This is justice." A final shot echoed through the throne room. Emperor Prylar, terror of 1,000 star systems, collapsed to the floor, lifeless. Silence fell over Korlunks as word of the Emperor's death spread. Voxari troops laid down their arms, the fight drained out of them. In orbit, the remaining Imperial ships surrendered to Admiral Thorne's victorious fleet. As the dust settled, Captain Alexei stood atop a ruined Voxari tank, surveying the devastated capital city. His comm chirped. "Alexei here." Admiral Thorne's voice came through, tinged with rare emotion. "We did it, Captain. Korlunks has fallen." Alexei nodded, allowing himself a moment of satisfaction. But he knew the war wasn't truly over. Pockets of Voxari resistance still remained, scattered across the stars. There would be more battles to fight, more worlds to liberate. He keyed his comm again. "Understood, Admiral. What's our next move?" Alexei keyed his comm again. "Understood, Admiral. What's our next move?" "Report to the command center," Thorne replied. "We've got a galaxy to rebuild." In the weeks that followed, human forces worked alongside their alien allies to restore order to the former Voxari Empire. On Korlunks, Alexei oversaw the dismantling of Imperial infrastructure, repurposing facilities to serve the new Galactic Alliance. During a strategy meeting, Admiral Thorne addressed the assembled leaders. "Our goal is clear. We must establish a new order based on freedom and self-willpower for all races." General Vira nodded, her crystalline skin catching the light. But there was a hardness in her eyes that Alexei hadn't noticed before. As the meeting adjourned, Vira pulled Alexei aside. "Walk with me, Captain," she said, her voice low. They strolled through a corridor lined with deactivated Voxari war machines. Vira's gaze lingered on the silent hulks. "Do you know how many of my people died in these monstrosities?" she asked. "How many were forced to pilot them against their will?" Alexei remained silent, sensing the weight of her words. Vira continued, her tone growing bitter. "The Voxari committed atrocities beyond imagining, and now we're supposed to just move on? Trust that your people will protect us?" "The Alliance," Alexei began, but Vira cut him off. "The Alliance is built on good intentions," she said, "but intentions aren't enough. We need guarantees." Before Alexei could respond, his comm chirped. "Captain, your presence is required in the command center," came the voice of his XO. Vira's expression smoothed over. "We'll continue this discussion another time," she said, striding away. Alexei watched her go, a sense of unease settling in his gut. He shook it off and headed for the command center. Months passed. The work of rebuilding continued, but tensions simmered beneath the surface. Alexei found himself mediating disputes between human forces and local populations with increasing frequency. During a routine intelligence briefing, a junior analyst approached Alexei. "Sir, I've noticed some irregularities in General Vira's communications." Alexei's eyes narrowed. "What kind of irregularities?" The analyst pulled up a holographic display. Encrypted transmissions to multiple systems, far more than her official duties require. And there are gaps in her location data that don't match her reported movements. Alexei studied the data, his mind racing. Keep digging, he ordered, but keep this quiet for now. We don't want to cause a panic if it turns out to be nothing. That evening, Alexei pored over the intelligence reports in his quarters. The pieces were starting to come together, and the picture they formed was troubling. Vera was consolidating power, rallying disaffected factions to her cause. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Admiral Thorne stepped in, looking grave. "Captain, we have a situation. General Vira has requested an emergency meeting of Alliance leadership on Nexus Prime. She claims to have uncovered a threat to galactic security." Alexei's hand moved to his sidearm. "Sir, I don't think—" The world exploded in a flash of blue light. Alexei felt his muscles seize as the stun blast engulfed him. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Thorne collapsing beside him, and the silhouette of Vira stepping through the doorway. "I'm sorry, old friends," she said, her voice tinged with genuine regret, "but I can't take the chance that you'll stop what needs to be done." Darkness claimed Alexei as Vira's troops swarmed into the room. The next great conflict of the liberated galaxy had begun.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.